watch the days turn to night and back to day, and seasons as they come and go, and call that pattern time. We see symmetrical patterns in the human body and the tiger's stripes, and build those patterns into what we create, from art to our cities. But what do patterns tell us? Why should the spiral shape of the Nautilus shell be so similar to the spiral of a galaxy? Or the spiral found in a sliced open head of cabbage? When scientists seek to understand the patterns of our world, they often turn to a powerful tool, mathematics. They quantify their observations and use mathematical techniques to examine them, hoping to discover the underlying causes of nature's rhythms and regularities. And it's worked, revealing the secrets behind the elliptical orbits of the planets to the electromagnetic waves that connect our cell phones. Mathematics has even guided the way, leading us right down to the subatomic building blocks of matter. Which raises the question, why does it work at all? Is there an inherent mathematical nature to reality? Or is mathematics all in our heads? Mario Livio is an astrophysicist who wrestles with these questions. He's fascinated by the deep and often mysterious connection between mathematics and the world.
If you look at nature, there are numbers all around us. You know, look at flowers, for example. So there are many flowers that have 3 petals like this, or 5 like this. Some of them may have 34 or 55. These numbers occur very often.
These may sound like random numbers, but they're all part of what is known as the Fibonacci sequence, a series of numbers developed by a 13th century mathematician.
You start with the numbers 1 and 1, and from that point on you keep adding up the last 2 numbers. So 1 plus 1 is 2, now 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5, 3 plus 5 is 8, and you keep going like this, 5 plus 8.
Today, hundreds of years later, this seemingly arbitrary progression of numbers fascinates many who see in it clues to everything from human beauty to the stock market. While most of those claims remain unproven, it is curious how evolution seems to favor these numbers.
And as it turns out, I mean, this sequence appears quite frequently in nature.
Fibonacci numbers show up in petal counts, especially of daisies. But that's just a start.
Statistically, the Fibonacci numbers do appear a lot in botany. For instance, if you look at the bottom of a pine cone, you will see often spirals in their scales. You end up counting those spirals. You will usually find a Fibonacci number, and then you will count the spirals going in the other direction, and you will find an adjacent Fibonacci number.
The same is true of the seeds on a sunflower head. 2 sets of spirals, and if you count the spirals in each direction, both are Fibonacci numbers. While there are some theories explaining the Fibonacci botany connection, it still raises some intriguing questions.
So, do plants know math? The short answer to that is no. They don't need to know math. In a very simple geometric way, they set up a little machine that creates the Fibonacci sequence in many cases.
The mysterious connections between the physical world and mathematics run deep. We all know the number pi from geometry, the ratio between the circumference of a circle and its diameter, and that its decimal digits go on forever without a repeating pattern. As of 2013, it had been calculated out to 12.1 trillion digits. But somehow pi is a whole lot more.
Pi appears in a whole host of other phenomena which have, at least on the face of it, nothing to do with circles or anything. In particular, it appears in probability theory quite a bit. Suppose I take this needle, so that the length of the needle is equal to the distance between two lines on this piece of paper. And suppose I drop this needle now on the paper.
Sometimes when you drop the needle, it will cut a line, and sometimes it drops between the lines. It turns out the probability that the needle lands so it cuts a line is exactly 2 over pi, or about 64%.
Now, what that means is that in principle, I could drop this needle millions of times. I could count the times when it crosses a line and when it doesn't cross a line, and I could actually even calculate pi. Even though there are no circles here, no diameters of a circle, nothing like that. It's really amazing.
Since pi relates a round object, a circle, with a straight one, its diameter, it can show up in the strangest of places. Some see it in the meandering path of rivers. A river's actual length as it winds its way from its source to its mouth, compared to the direct distance, on average seems to be about pi. Models for just about anything involving waves will have pi in them. Like those for light and sound. Pi tells us which colors should appear in a rainbow and how middle C should sound on a piano. Pi shows up in apples, in the way cells grow into spherical shapes, or in the brightness of a supernova. One writer has suggested it's like seeing pi on a series of mountain peaks, poking out of a fog-shrouded valley. We know there's a way they're all connected, but it's not always obvious how. Pi is but one example of a vast interconnected web of mathematics that seems to reveal an often hidden and deep order to our world. Physicist Max Tegmark from MIT thinks he knows why. He sees similarities between our world and that of a computer game.
If I were a character in a computer game that were so advanced that I were actually conscious and I started exploring my video game world, it would actually feel to me like it was made of real solid objects, made of physical stuff. Yet if I started studying, as the curious physicist that I am, the properties of this stuff, the equations by which things move and the equations that give the stuff its properties, I would discover eventually that all these properties were mathematical. The mathematical properties that the programmer had actually put into the software that describes everything.
The laws of physics in a game, like how an object floats, bounces, or crashes, are only mathematical rules created by a programmer. Ultimately, the entire universe of a computer game is just numbers and equations.
That's exactly what I perceive in this reality too as a physicist, that the closer I look at things that seem non-mathematical, like my arm here in my hand, the more mathematical it turns out to be.
Yo, Elo.
Is really
what's up, man?
Just as mathematical as the
what is good with you?
Reality.
I'm just in the other room making some tea right now. I'll be right back in a couple minutes, alright?
From the physical world we live in. He thinks that mathematics works so well to describe reality because ultimately mathematics is all that it is. There's nothing else.
Dad and this dude right here occupy my spot. I don't want to kick him out just yet.
Describes our physical reality, at least in some approximate sense. I go further and argue that it actually is our physical reality.
because I'm arguing that our physical world doesn't just have some mathematical properties, but has only mathematical properties.
Our physical reality is a bit like a digital photograph, according to Max. The photo looks like the pond, but as we move in closer and closer, we can see it is really a field of pixels, each represented by 3 numbers that specify the amount of red, green, and blue. While the universe is vast in its size and complexity, requiring an unbelievably large collection of numbers to describe it, Max sees its underlying mathematical structure as surprisingly simple. It's just 32 numbers, constants, like the masses of elementary particles, along with a handful of mathematical equations, the fundamental laws of physics. And it all fits on a wall, though there are still some questions.
But even though we don't know what exactly is going to go here, I'm really confident that what will go here will be mathematical equations, that everything is ultimately mathematical.
Max described reality, but is its essence, may sound radical, but it has deep roots in history. Going back to ancient Greece, to the time of the philosopher and mystic Pythagoras. Stories say he explored the affinity between mathematics and music, a relationship that resonates to this day in the work of Esperanza Spalding, an acclaimed jazz musician who studied music theory and sees its parallel in mathematics.
I love the experience of math. The part that I enjoy about math, I get to experience through music too. At the beginning, you're studying all the little equations, but you get to have this very visceral relationship with the product of those equations, which is sound and music and harmony and dissonance and all that good stuff. So I'm much better at music than at math, but I love math with a passion. They're both just as much work. You have to study your head off. Study your head off.
The ancient Greeks found 3 relationships between notes especially pleasing. Now we call them an octave, a fifth, and a fourth.
Some musical knowledge for you.
It's easy to remember because it's the first 2 notes of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. La la. That's an octave. Somewhere. A fifth sounds like this. La la. Or the first 2 notes of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. La la. You can think of it as
Man, you're complaining, but we're living in a tropical jungle out here. Tigers and
in the 6th century BCE, the Greek
bears
philosopher Pythagoras is said to have discovered that
all
those
kinds
beautiful
of
musical
shenanigans.
relationships were also beautiful mathematical relationships.
It's raining like 3 times a day out here. Humidity is through the roof.
In an octave, the string lengths create a ratio of 2 to 1. In a fifth, the ratio is 3 to 2.
There goes that T.
And in a fourth, it is 4 to 3.
Seeing a common pattern throughout sound, that could be a big eye-opener of saying, well, if this exists in sound, and if it's true universally through all sounds, this ratio could exist universally everywhere, right? And doesn't it?
Pythagoreans worshipped the idea of numbers. The fact that simple ratios produced harmonious sounds was proof of a hidden order in the natural world, and that order was made of numbers. A profound insight that mathematicians and scientists continue to explore to this day. In fact, there are plenty of other physical phenomena that follow simple ratios. From the 2 to 1 ratio of hydrogen atoms to oxygen atoms in water, to the number of times the moon orbits the Earth compared to its own rotation, 1 to 1. Or that Mercury, rotates exactly 3 times when it orbits the sun twice, a 3-to-2 ratio. In ancient Greece, Pythagoras and his followers had a profound effect on another Greek philosopher, Plato, whose ideas also resonate to this day, especially among mathematicians.
Go.
Plato believed that geometry and mathematics exist
Alright, buddy.
in their
You won't
own
get your
ideal
ass.
world.
You gotta move
So
your...
when we draw a circle
Come
on
on.
a piece of paper,
Oh,
this
come
is
on,
not
big
the
boy.
real circle. The real circle is in that world, and this is just an approximation of that real circle, and the same with all other shapes. And Plato liked very much these 5 solids, the Platonic solids we call them.
On the
today.
weekend, it should be cooler.
Trying to put one of
I
them
hope.
to one of the elements that form the world and destroy it.
The stable cube,
Especially for how it's been over here, man.
the tetrahedron with its
But,
pointed
yeah,
corners,
what are we, some Johnny-come-latelys? We're gonna talk about weather all day? Let's get to the nitty-gritty. This is called a medicine shack after all, and boy, do I got some things in store for you, my friend.
was water.
Light this
And
fucking
finally, the
savage.
dodecahedron, this was the thing that signified the cosmos as a whole.
Get some fire
So
going in
Plato's
here.
mathematical forms were the ideal version of the world around us, and they existed in their own
Get
realm.
some smoke going.
And however bizarre that may sound, that mathematics exists in its own world, shaping the world we see, it's an idea that to this day many mathematicians and scientists can relate to. The sense they have when they're doing math, that they're just uncovering something that's already out there.
I feel quite strongly that mathematics is discovered. In my work as a mathematician, it always feels to me there is a thing out there and I'm kind of trying to find it and understand it and touch it.
As someone who actually has had the pleasure of making new mathematics, it feels like there's something there before you get to it.
If I have to choose, I think it's more discovered than
There it
invented,
is.
because I think there's
Boom.
a reality to what we study in mathematics. When we do good mathematics, we're discovering something about the way our minds work in interaction with the world.
Oh, I know that because that's what I do. I come to my office, I sit down in front of my whiteboard and I try and understand that thing that's out there. And every now and then I'm discovering a new bit of it. That's exactly what it feels like.
To many mathematicians, it feels like math is discovered rather than invented. But is that just a feeling? Could it be that mathematics is purely a product of the human brain? Meet Sham, a bona fide math whiz.
800 on the SAT math. That's pretty good. And you took it when you were how old?
11.
11. Wow, that's like a perfect score.
Where does Sham's math genius come from? It turns out we can pinpoint it, and it's all in his head.
Comes from his parents beating him, saying, "You're going to be an engineer when you grow up. We're not taking you to the United States for no reason."
Answers math questions to see which parts of the brain receive more blood, a sign they're hard at work.
Damn.
All right, Sam, I'll start right now, okay, buddy?
In images of Sham's brain, the parietal lobes glow an especially bright crimson.
He is relying on parietal areas to determine these mathematical relationships. That's characteristic of lots of math-gifted types, or
In tests similar to Sham's, kids who exhibit high math performance have 5 to 6 times more neuron activation than average.
Damn, this shit is lighting up.
But is that the result of teaching and intense practice? Or are the foundations of math built into our brains? Scientists are looking for the answer here at the Duke University Lemur Center, a 70-acre sanctuary in North Carolina, the largest one for rare and endangered lemurs in the world.
I've been there. It's in
Like all
Ashboro.
primates, lemurs are related to humans through a common ancestor that lived as many as 65 million years ago. Scientists believe lemurs share many characteristics with those earliest primates, making them a window, though a blurry one, into our ancient past.
I know. I noticed.
Here, Terry's. Come on up.
Duke Professor Liz Brannon investigates how well lemurs, like Terry's here, can compare quantities.
Is it this way on YouTube or Twitch as well?
So,
I noticed it about a week and a half ago
What
now.
are all of these different animals doing when they compare?
Nobody's
to
streaming
quantities?
anymore. It's like the end of the
He's
world.
not using verbal labels. He's not using symbols. We need to figure out whether they can really use number, pure number, as a cue.
To test how well Terry's can distinguish quantities, he's been taught a touchscreen computer game. The red square starts around.
Not
If he
too high.
touches it, 2 squares appear containing different numbers of objects.
Put it right here next
He's
to the
been
window.
trained that if he chooses the box with the fewest number, he'll get a reward, a sugar pellet. A wrong answer?
We have to do a lot to ensure
Did somebody
that
roll out
they're
an
really
update
attending to number,
that
not
messed up the
something
viewer
else.
counter?
To make sure the test
YouTube
animals
or
react to the
PlayStation?
number of objects and not some other cue, Liz varies the object's size, color, and shape.
That would be my first guess.
She has conducted
Update has gone
thousands of
awry.
trials and shown that lemurs and rhesus monkeys can learn to pick the right answer.
Terry's obviously doesn't have language, and he doesn't have any symbols for number. So is he counting? Is he doing what a human child does when they recite the numbers 1, 2, 3? No. And yet, what he seems to be attending to is the very abstract essence of what a number is.
Lemurs and rhesus monkeys
Shit,
aren't alone
look at
in
this
having
dude.
this primitive number sense. Rats, pigeons, fish, raccoons, insects, horses, and elephants all show sensitivity to quantity. And so do human infants. At her lab on the Duke campus, Liz has tested babies that were only 6 months old. They'll look longer at a screen with a changing number of objects, as long as the change is obvious enough to capture their attention.
Yeah, I mean, of course they're gonna notice it.
Liz has also tested college students.
That is one thing humans do excel at from a very young age. That's pattern recognition.
Screen test comparing quantities.
Because of how strong our sight is.
About the same as lemurs and rhesus monkeys.
In fact, there are humans who aren't as good as our monkeys, and others that are far better. So there's a lot
Oh,
of
so that's a
variability in
surprise.
performance, but in general, it looks very similar to a monkey. Even without any mathematics,
I would hate math as a
even
kid.
without learning any number words or symbols,
I'm now more
we
fascinated
still
by
have
it now that I
all
understand
as
the
humans
application
a
of it.
primitive number sense, that fundamental ability to perceive number.
And
seems
how
to
it's
be
kind
an
of built into the
important
code
foundation, and without it,
of everything
it's very
around us.
questionable as to whether we could ever appreciate symbolic mathematics.
The building blocks of mathematics may be pre-programmed into our brains, part of the basic toolkit for survival. Like our ability to recognize patterns and shapes, or our sense of time. From that point of view, on this foundation, we've erected one of the greatest inventions of human culture. Mathematics. But the mystery remains. If it is all in our heads, why has math been so effective? Through science, technology, and engineering, it's transformed the planet, even allowing us to go into the beyond. As in the work here at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California.
Roger, copy mission.
In 2012,
Sky Green started.
they landed a car-sized rover
Sending at about 0.75 meters per second as expected.
on Mars.
Touchdown confirmed. Proceed.
Adam Stelzner was the lead engineer on the team that designed the landing system. Their work depended on a groundbreaking discovery from the Renaissance that turned mathematics into the language of science. the law of falling bodies. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle taught that heavier objects fall faster than lighter.
What's going on, Cash? Just watching some documentaries getting blunted.
Makes sense.
Yes,
Even
sir.
this service, the Mars Yard,
Hope everything is good in your life.
test the rovers at JPL.
Welcome to the Medicine
So
Shack.
Aristotle reasoned that the rate
My
at which
friend.
things would fall was proportional to their weight.
Wow!
Which seems reasonable.
Check it out.
In fact, so
That's what's
reasonable
on the
that
menu
it held for nearly
for today.
2,000 years, until challenged in the late 1500s by Italian mathematician Galileo Galilei.
What's this stream
Legend
about
has
right
it
here?
Galileo dropped 2 different weight cannonballs
Good question.
from the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
I'm just sitting here chilling, watching a documentary.
We don't have
We got a
cannonballs.
little bit of reefer.
We do have a bowling
We
ball
got
and a bouncy
some
ball.
fire,
Let's weigh them.
giving us some
First,
energy.
we weigh the bowling ball. It weighs 15 pounds. And the bouncy ball, it weighs hardly anything.
The elements for your ailments.
According to Aristotle, the bowling ball should fall over 15 times faster than the bouncy ball.
Well, they seem to fall at the same rate. This isn't that high, though. Maybe we should drop them from higher. So Ed is 20 feet in the air up there. Let's see if the balls fall at the same rate. Ready? 3, 2, 1, drop.
Same speed.
Galileo is right. Aristotle, you lose.
Dropping feathers and hammers is misleading, thanks to air resistance.
Well, in my left hand I have a feather. In my right hand a hammer.
A fact demonstrated on the moon, where there is no air, in 1971 during the Apollo 15 mission.
And I'll drop the 2 of them here.
Boom.
How about that? Mr. Galileo was correct.
Little balls, soccer balls,
So while counterintuitive,
vegetables.
if you take the air out of the equation, everything falls at the same rate, even Aristotle.
Damn.
But what really interested Galileo
Yo,
was that
history.
an
What's good,
object
man?
dropped at one height didn't take twice as long to drop from
Watching
twice
some
as high.
mysteries of the universe. So got some medicine on deck.
Everything is happening.
Yes, sir. Hold this.
Galileo came up
Break
with
that
an
down right here.
solution.
We're all going to enjoy it.
He built
Take
a
it.
ramp,
Break it.
an inclined plane, to slow the falling motion down so he could measure it.
Aha.
So we're going to use this ramp to find a relationship between distance.
Now we can get the parlay of the minds started.
We'll use an arbitrary unit, a Galileo.
Now that there seems to be enough savages in the building.
The length of the ramp that the ball rolls during 1 Galileo becomes 1 unit of distance.
So we've gone 1 unit of distance in 1 unit of time. Now let's try it for a 2 count. 1 Galileo, 2 Galileo.
In 2
I'll let
units
my
of
cat
time,
out. You don't
the
want to get
ball
my
has
box
rolled
in, do you?
4 units of distance.
Now let's see how far it goes in 3 Galileos.
The celery of life.
Time, the ball has gone 9 units of distance.
The vegetables of the
So there it is. There's a mathematical
Olympus.
relationship
I don't know.
between
Shut up.
time and distance.
Galileo's inspired use of a ramp had shown falling objects follow mathematical laws.
Get to the task at hand.
The distance the ball
Let us not
traveled
waste
is
any
directly
more
proportional to the
time.
square of the time.
Yes.
That mathematical relationship that Galileo observed
It's
is a
Thursday.
mathematical
It's a beautiful day to be
physics
alive.
of our universe.
It's been raining all fucking morning, but
Galileo's centuries-old mathematical
sometimes we need
observation
that.
about falling objects remains just as valid today.
everything is everything.
It's the same mathematical expression that we can use.
He said, cut out the chitter chatter. Yeah, exactly.
Fall here on Earth, roll down a ramp.
We're not going to talk about weather for 5 minutes.
We used to land the Curiosity rover on the surface of Mars.
Not on this channel.
That's the power of mathematics.
Galileo's insight
come together like a group of soldiers.
Mathematics could be used as a tool to
learn some mathematics and smoke a number together.
He later wrote,
bada boom, bada bing. Hen, what's up, man? Good morning to you. Hope everything is Irie in your life. Everything is everything. It's a beautiful day to be alive.
While Galileo turned mathematical equations,
go ahead, pass you a little bud too. Since we're feeling nice today. Here you go. Here you go, sir. You go ahead and break this one up. Here you go. Boop. Got it?
Trinity College in Cambridge, England.
Newton cultivated the reputation of being a literary genius, and here in Bowling Green,
we're going to get this morning started off on the right foot, like James Brown said. Who are we not to get down like James Brown on a Thursday morning? What? Exactly. What is that? A meteor? It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a bud. Oh shit. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
In 1687, Newton published a book that would become a landmark in the history of science. Today, it is known simply as the Principia. In it, Newton gathered observations from around the world and used mathematics to explain them. For instance, that of a comet seen widely
this
in the fall
is the type of reefer that will make you hear holy music after you hit the bomb in your head.
So for November the 19th, he begins with an observation made in Cambridge in England at 4:30 a.m. by a certain young person.
Ah, let's
and then
do it.
At 5
Do it.
in the morning
Do it.
At Boston in New England. So what Newton does is to accumulate numbers made by observers spread right across the globe in order to construct an unprecedentedly accurate calculation of how this great comet moved through the sky.
Newton's groundbreaking insight was that the force that sent the comet hurtling around the sun
leave me a message
was the same force that brought
if it's important, or call me back. I am not about to interrupt the flow of things.
And it even held the planets in their orbits. He called the force gravity and described it precisely in a surprisingly simple equation that explains how two masses attract each other, whether here on Earth
oh, what the hell?
or in the heavens above.
What's so impressive and so
It's tripping. Anyways,
a single
back to the task at hand.
would allow you to
Right?
move throughout the universe.
Today, we can even witness it at work beyond the Milky Way.
Alright, you know the drill. Get your pipes, get your bongs, get those blunts out, backwoods, papers.
Right.
Mario Livio is on the team
that
working
type
with
of
the
a
images
morning.
from the Hubble Space Telescope.
Oh shit.
For decades, scientists have used Hubble to
Where's
gaze
my
far
Hubble
beyond
Space
our
Telescope
solar
at?
system, even beyond the stars of
Oh
our
my
galaxy.
god.
It showed us
Oh
the
my.
distant gas clouds of nebulae.
What the
and
fuck, Dan?
vast numbers
What are you
of
doing?
galaxies
What are you trying to do
in the
here?
heavens, billions of light years away.
What the fuck?
And what those images show is that throughout the visible universe, as far as the telescope can see, the law of gravity still applies.
You know, Newton wrote these laws of gravity and of motion based on things happening on Earth and the planets in the solar system and so on. But these same laws, these very same laws, apply to all these distant galaxies and, you know, shape them, and everything about them, how they form, how they move, is controlled by those same mathematical laws.
That is why scientists say if the aliens were to ever reach out and speak to us, it would be through math, not through any language.
Albert Einstein, in explaining the universe as we see it, and Nobel laureate in physics Eugene Wigner coined this phrase, the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. He said that the fact that mathematics can really describe the universe so well, in particular physical laws, is a gift that we neither understand nor deserve.
In physics, examples of that unreasonable effectiveness abound. When nearly 200 years ago the planet Uranus was seen to go off track, scientists trusted the math and calculated.
Let me know if you're ready.
Pulled by another unseen planet. And so they
we're going to take off.
Neptune.
All right.
Mathematics had accurately predicted a previously unknown planet.
Or not. Didn't wait for no man.
Question properly. Mathematics gives you the answer. It's like
we're the type of savages that walk their own beat.
Far more capable than you are. So you tell it, do this, and if you say it nicely, then it will do it, and it will carry
what?
You all the way to the truth, to the final answer.
Evidence of the amazing predictive power of mathematics can be found all around us.
I heard it took 5 Elvises to pull them apart.
Television, radio, your cell phone, satellites, the baby monitor, Wi-Fi, your garage door opener, GPS, and yes, even maybe your TV's remote. All of these use invisible waves of communication, and no one even knew they existed until the work of James Maxwell, a Scottish mathematical physicist. In the 1860s, he published a set of equations that explained how electricity and magnetism were related, how each could generate the other. The equations also made a startling prediction. Together, electricity and magnetism could produce waves of energy that would travel through space at the speed of light. Electromagnetic waves.
Maxwell's theory gave us these radio waves, X-rays, these things which were simply not known about at all. So the theory had a scope, which was extraordinary.
Almost immediately, people set out to
I'm
find
go ahead
the
call that
waves
number back.
predicted by Maxwell's
It looked familiar.
equations. What must have seemed the least promising attempt to harness them is made here, in northern Italy, in the attic of a family home by 20-year-old Guglielmo Marconi. His process starts with a series of sparks. The burst of electricity creates a momentary magnetic field, which in turn generates a momentary electric field, which creates another magnetic field. The energy cycles between the two, propagating an electromagnetic wave. Marconi gets his system to work inside, but then he scales up. In a few weeks, he builds a big antenna beside the house to amplify the waves coming from his spark generator. Then, he asks his brother and an assistant to carry a receiver across the estate to the far side of a nearby hill. They also have a shotgun, which they will fire if they manage to pick up the signal.
Hey man, what's good with you? I hear that. Yeah, I got you. You want me to stop by over there? You want to come here? Okay.
And it works. The
All right,
signal
cool.
has been detected even though the receiver is now hidden behind a hill.
Yep.
At over a mile,
All right.
it is the
See you.
farthest transmission to date. In fewer than 10 years, Marconi will be sending radio signals across the Atlantic. In fact, when the Titanic sinks in 1912, he'll be personally credited with saving many lives, because his onboard equipment allowed the distress signal to be transmitted. Thanks to the predictions of Maxwell's equations, Marconi could harness a hidden part of our world.
Breaking on something.
The era of wireless
Shall we?
communication. Since Maxwell and Marconi, evidence of the predictive power of mathematics has only grown, especially in the world of physics. 100 years ago, we barely knew atoms existed. It took experiments to reveal their components, the electron, the proton, and the neutron. But when physicists wanted to go deeper, mathematics began to lead the way, ultimately revealing a zoo of elementary particles. Discoveries that continue to this day here at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research in Geneva, Switzerland. These days, they're most famous for their Large Hadron Collider.
That thing scares the shit out of me.
About 17 miles around, built deep underground. This $10 billion project, decades in the making, had a well-publicized goal: the search for one of the most fundamental building blocks of the universe. A subatomic particle mathematically predicted to exist nearly 50 years earlier by Robert Brout and François Englert, working in Belgium, and Peter Higgs in Scotland.
Peter Higgs sat down with the most advanced physics equations we had and calculated and made this audacious prediction that if we built the most sophisticated machines humans had ever built and used it to smash particles together near the speed of light in a certain way, that we would there discover a new particle. And if this math was really accurate.
The discovery of the Higgs particle would be proof of the Higgs field, a cosmic molasses that gives the stuff of our world mass, what we usually experience as weight. Without mass, everything would travel at the speed of light and would never combine to form atoms. That makes the Higgs field such a fundamental part of physics that the Higgs particle gained the nickname, the God particle. In 2012, experiments at CERN confirmed the existence of the Higgs particle, making the work of Peter Higgs and his colleagues decades earlier one of the greatest predictions ever made.
Well, we built it, and it worked, and he got a free trip to Stockholm.
Here you have mathematical theories which make very definitive predictions about the possible existence of some fundamental particles of nature. And believe it or not, they make these huge experiments and they actually discover the particles that have been predicted mathematically. I mean, this is just amazing to me.
Why does this work? How can mathematics be so powerful? Is mathematics, a truth of nature, or does it have something to do with the way we as humans perceive nature? I mean, to me, this is just a fascinating puzzle. I don't know the answer.
In physics, mathematics has had a long string of successes. But is it really unreasonably effective? Not everyone thinks so.
I think it's an illusion, because I think what's happened is that people have chosen to build physics, for example, using the mathematics that has been practiced, has developed historically. And then they're looking at everything, they're choosing to study things which are amenable to study using the mathematics that happens to have arisen. But actually there's a whole vast ocean of other things that are really quite inaccessible to those methods.
With the success of mathematical models in physics, it's easy to overlook where they don't work that well, like in weather forecasting. There's a reason meteorologists predict the weather for the coming week, but not much further out than that. In a longer forecast, small errors grow into big ones. Daily weather is just too complex and chaotic for precise modeling, and it's not alone. So is the behavior of water boiling on a stove, or the stock market, or the interaction of neurons in the brain, much of human psychology, and parts of biology.
Biological systems, economic systems, it gets very difficult to model those systems with math. We have extreme difficulty with that. So I do not see math as unreasonably effective. I see it as reasonably ineffective.
Perhaps no one is as keenly aware of the power and limitations of mathematics as those who use it to design and make things, engineers.
Look at that wheel.
In their work, the elegance of math meets the messiness of reality, and practicality rules the day.
Mathematics, and perhaps mathematicians, deal in the domain of the absolute. And engineers live in the domain of the approximate. We are fundamentally interested in the practical. And so frequently we make approximations, we cut corners, we omit terms and equations to get things that are simple enough to suit our purposes and to meet our needs.
Many of our greatest engineering achievements
so they just eyeball a fucking ice scraper now.
Simplified equations that approximate an answer, trading some precision for practicality. And for engineers, approximate is close enough to take you to Mars.
For us engineers, we don't get paid to do things right. We get paid to do things just right enough.
Many physicists see an uncanny accuracy in the way mathematics can reveal the secrets of the universe, making it seem to be an inherent part of nature. Meanwhile, engineers in practice have to sacrifice the precision of mathematics to keep it useful, making it seem more like an imperfect tool of our own invention. So which is mathematics? A discovered part of the universe? Or a very human invention? Maybe it's both.
What I think about mathematics is that it is an intricate combination of inventions and discoveries. So for example, take something like natural numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. I think what happened was that people were looking at many things, for example, and seeing that there are 2 eyes, 2 breasts, 2 hands, and so on. And after some time, they abstracted from all of that the number 2.
According to Mario, 2 became an invented concept, as did all the other natural numbers. But then, people discovered that these numbers have all kinds of intricate relationships. Those were discoveries.
We invented the concept, but then discovered the relations among the different concepts.
So is this the answer? That math is both invented and discovered?
This is one of those questions where it's both. Yes, feels like it's already there, but yes, it's something that comes out of our deep creative nature as human beings.
We may have some idea to how all this works, but not the complete answer. In the end, it remains the great math mystery.
It's a solid documentary. What y'all think? Me personally, I was never a huge fan of math. And I really sucked at math when I was in school. but that's in part due to
This Nova program is available on DVD.
me not really finding it interesting. When I find something interesting, then I really can learn about it.
DDS. Nova is also available for download on iTunes.
Tremendous. Cool. Alright. I appreciate y'all for stopping through for the quick little smoke session. I gotta go and meet a friend of mine about getting some artwork done. So, gotta use my skills to pay the bills, ladies and gentlemen. Salute, peace, and one love. Thank you for stopping by again. Yours truly, Dim, out.